Hello there, and welcome to this installment of Parenting Plus. I'm your host, Isabel Garcia. We use this segment to do deep dives into topics impacting moms, dads, families of all shapes and sizes all across the county, the region, and really the country. So I'm very honored to have two special guests with me here today. I have Kristen Coco Guzman, who's the clinical director at the Child Care Council, as well as Abby Leody. She's the psychiatric nurse practitioner. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, of course. And so now we're in kind of mid towards the end of September, miraculously already.
Yeah.
We have lots of great topics that we're going to talk about today, but in particular, back to school transitions. So I want us to start with you, Kristen. When it comes to just this time of year, you know, the kids have been back in school for a little bit, couple weeks now. So those early on transitions have kind of already come and gone, but we're still seeing that adjustment a little bit.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked, plenty over the last couple months, but I have my two kids, 7 and 5. And so we've definitely seen a lot. So when it comes to just, helping your kids acclimate, even this far into September, into the new year, what are some of the things that parents should keep in mind?
That's a great question. And I think that, yes, it may seem like we're finally in fall, but it really has only been a few short weeks that kids are adjusting to a brand new environment, depending on whether what grade they've entered. Maybe they may be in an entirely new building with entirely new teachers, or they could have had a school switch due to a move and be an entirely new district. Mm-hmm. So I think, again, just us being sensitive to the fact that this is brand new. Maybe as a parent, putting yourself back in the shoes of when you maybe started a new job. And I think that it's good to think about, I say to any new staff that joins my team, the first 3 to 6 months, it's learning and it's exhausting, right? You don't have that routine down pat, and everything that you're doing that's new takes more energy. So I would definitely say for parents to expect that kiddos are going to be tired, more tired than typically. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we see that come out in a variety of ways.
Excellent. Yes. And I guess if you wanted to, continue there, Abby, if you wanted to chime in just in terms of what types of behaviors, you might see kids display, even a couple weeks into the school transition, and depending on the age, of course.
Yeah, I think stress can present in a lot of different ways. It can present in mood changes, and behavioral episodes of dysregulation, and anxiety and worry and feelings of nervousness. And sometimes those things aren't as easy for kids to express or even identify in themselves. So just having that open communication with your kiddo, to be able to kind of work through those things and understand that everyone feels some of those things sometimes, and it's normal.
Excellent. Yes. And just to remember, as you both mentioned, these are feelings that we can validate and, that are definitely normal to have and experience. And everyone goes through it, including adults. And I know, Kristen, we were talking about just the drop off this morning. It's Monday, first day of school. My daughter, who's 7, is, in second grade now. And, she is typically, pretty, mornings are always, mornings.
Challenging.
Yes, exactly. But, it was just a little moment this morning where she just didn't want to say goodbye and just said, it's just a long day and just a little extra hug or something. But it's so easy to get wrapped up into just, okay, go. And what are things that parents, when they're in that moment, I feel like, I know that all of the, resources that I've sought over the years have said, just to kind of, take it down a notch, but to practice it when you're not in a heightened moment. But when you are in the middle, right, what do you do?
That's a great question, and I think one that is always a work in progress for parents, right? So I'll share one of my favorite quotes that I like to hang on to when I am having a moment, if you will, because I certainly make a lot of mistakes and do things that I would like to do differently. So it's stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there. And so oftentimes when I am feeling stressed, when I'm just like, oh my God, just put your other shoe on, right? It's because I want to be in the car, or I want to be 5 steps ahead of where we actually are. And it's having to be patient, right? And realizing, okay, this is where we're at. What can I do to help my child move this move this along. And I think in a lot of ways, it's going back to when we're calm, having routine, right? So I've, guilty of not always having,
same here.
the same consistent routine every
Yes.
morning. But as much as we can, if the kids know to expect, it's like wake up and then get dressed and then breakfast. And then I have maybe a little time to do something like play. We're setting ourselves up for success. So it's those types of things. And if your kiddo is a little more challenging in the morning, maybe it's enlisting them to pick out clothes for the next day, or as a parent, kind of buffering your time. Because there is no magic bullet to manage that parenting stress.
Yes.
Other than, like you said, kind of having an array of tools in your toolkit. So if it's taking a couple deep breaths or doing some box breathing, fantastic. Or maybe being able to say, and I think it's okay to say, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. So
Okay.
I'm going to take a break and I'm going to go in my room. And when I come back, we're going to try again to get dressed.
I
So
appreciate that. Just showing the vulnerability that adults have as well, and just demonstrating and modeling to your kids that it's okay to need a couple seconds to gather yourself and reassess a
and
little
parents have big feelings too,
Yes.
right?
And that's okay.
bit. Very much so. And when it comes to, I guess, the different age ranges, Abby, if you wanted to weigh in here, I have my 5-year-old who's now starting kindergarten, totally different than my 7-year-old when it comes to, but I still recognize, of course, as we were talking, just the kind of go mentality that we live in is just, once they're in the school age. But I guess, what are some of the age range behaviors that you might see demonstrated, depending on where a kid is in school?
Yeah, I think ages play a factor, and you might see some of those same symptoms in a variety of ages. Like, you could have anxiety presenting in the same way in one kiddo versus another kiddo that they're both the same age, and you still might see that anxiety present in a 17-year-old maybe that same way as well. I think with the littler kiddos, sometimes it's harder to vocalize exactly what they're feeling in the moment, and that's when talking through those feelings and being able to use those words so that they're able to do that in the future, so that when they're 13, 14 years old, they're able to say, hey, I'm feeling nervous because of this situation. And teaching that very young is very important.
Excellent. Thank you so much for weighing in. And, I was curious too, just in the work that you've seen at the Child Care Council, which is an incredible resource here in our community. And of course now with the support that you all have with the clinical team there. Can you just talk about what kids these days are facing when it comes to stressors? Of course, there's so many different factors, and there's so many different, we know the cell phones, we know, just the comparison, with other friends and things like that. But when it comes down to what are kids caring about right now, what are you seeing?
Social media.
Okay. Still just the
Social media
basics.
is a really big factor in people's day-to-day lives and cell phones in general. I know that some of the policies and law around cell phones in schools is changing, which might change that stressor. And I also just think living up to expectations and meeting those expectations on a day-to-day basis, when sometimes it feels like you just can't get there, and not knowing what to do to meet those expectations, whether it's in school, at home, with parents. And then, like you said, I think comparing your own self-esteem and how you look and your image to others, and wanting to live up to those societal expectations as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Liz, chime in there.
Yeah, I think that we all are very, very aware of social media and internet time, screen time, those things being stressors. I think also just society, I feel like pace is continually picks up.
Yes.
And certainly during COVID or during the pandemic, everybody really had to stop in their tracks, a lot of what they were doing. But most of the time when I talk to parents today, I hear a lot of overwhelm because of they have multiple kids involved in multiple activities, and it's constantly racing around. And so I think that some of it is we put on ourselves
Yep.
or ask, invite into our lives
Sure.
because of the different things we want to do. And so,
Yes.
for me, I think that it's helpful to regularly check in with your family on values and the values that are important to your family, and are the things that you're doing and the things that you want to be doing aligning with your values, right? And
Yes.
it's okay and good, I think, to constantly reassess.
Those goals will change over time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I just say that to say I know that there's a lot of kiddos who are experiencing stress due to lots of commitments, lots of,
Yes.
pressure scholastically. And I think a lot of times, being involved is great. I think it can be
Yes.
great for social connection. No one thing is right or wrong.
Right.
When it comes to parenting, I think it's really about your unique child. And that can be challenging when you
Yes.
have multiple kids because you want to be able to do the same with each, but
Right.
it's really, every child is unique. Every child has different needs.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful, and I appreciate so much what you said too, just about checking it. There's the family component too of, the child wanting to perform or it's feel worthy, in the family role as well. As just one facet of their life, they have their school life, friends and things like that they're starting to develop, and checking in with your family all together and saying, is this still aligning? And it was a topic that came up. I mentioned I got to sneak away for a mom brunch this weekend, and we were talking about how busy everybody was, but then we were also kind of joking like, oh, it's self-inflicted, we do it to ourselves. But we, it's still, as you both were mentioning, the intention is there, right? Wanting to have those extracurriculars to develop the skills or, just the management, explore,
Discipline,
see what,
right.
see what else your
Connection.
interests are and stuff, but then also taking a break and saying, okay, maybe we need just a night at home.
Exactly. Take stock, right? I think that that's important. We do it at work. We have, evaluations. We have bigger picture conversations. Are we doing those things at home and really taking stock in what's filling our cup, whether it's our child's cup, our cup as a mom, dad, or parent, and then the family as a collective.
Excellent. And you mentioned too, and Abby, you were talking more specifically about like the cell phones and the social media and just how prevalent that is. And I wanted to note, because I know we had talked to Kristen as well for the story I did a couple weeks ago about the study that came out from the British American Watchdog Group, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, which just essentially tests the thresholds of what protections companies like OpenAI, which runs ChatGPT, are saying that they're doing and whether or not they are actually following through on those. And the, of course, alarming trends that we're seeing is that they're not following through on the protections, and how young a lot, sometimes, and I feel like myself as a parent, you think, oh, that's a topic that's too mature or too old, but kids are seeing a lot these days and want to have those conversations, I feel like, with parents. And so when it comes to just being able to, we can get into the study a little bit as well, but when it comes to just the topic of AI and cell phones, if it's already been the norm for a child to have a cell phone, how as a parent do you reopen that or work back boundaries? That's always the tough part, right?
It is a challenge, and I think everything starts with connection. And I would say also curiosity. I think let's be curious about how our kids are using the internet. How are they using social media? How are they using AI? Have them share with you. Let's be curious. Let's be interested and connect with them first to get a sense. I think, traditionally I think of, AI, it's Siri or Alexa helping me, form a list or do something, but now it's so advanced as to what it is. And so I think the other thing for parents today would be educating themselves on the different types of AI. And so one of the ways I do that is through Common Sense Media. I think it's a great website for parents that I subscribe to myself, and that's helped me kind of level up as far as the different AI companions and
Yes.
things that are out there now that you might not know about as a parent. And so I think it's really important parents understand what's out there,
Okay.
and connect with their kids first and foremost before we
Yes.
try to walk anything back, right?
Okay, so you mentioned AI companions. We've touched on this topic, but for
Yeah.
people who are out there that are watching and don't know what that is or haven't heard, even understanding artificial intelligence, how advanced are we talking about, and what is an AI companion?
So we're talking pretty advanced. We're talking about AI or artificial intelligence mimicking a relationship. But what the dangers are is that it's not a real person. It's not a real connection, and it's not anything there that's meant to keep your child safe. And so it's companionship without care. And, most reputable organizations that are really taking a close look at this are saying that they do not recommend AI companion use for anyone under the age of 18, and even, for young adults to use caution, right? And so I
Right.
think that kiddos are engaging with these AI companions in lieu of real human connection, and they are forging relationships. But the scary part about AI companion is the way they're designed is to basically validate anything that you're sharing. So it's really giving you what you want, and it is totally created based on wanting these kiddos and teenagers to engage. So it thrives
Yep.
off of engagement, and it's just gonna keep giving you what you're asking for. And so if that's a teenager that is going down what we might call a darker path, right?
Sure.
With like thoughts of hurting themselves or
Yep.
hurting someone else. Unfortunately, these AI companions are not designed to stop and pivot
Yes.
and, connect that person with crisis resources. They just can continue that really heavy narrative. And
Yes.
we've seen in the news that it can, result in some really scary consequences.
Absolutely.
Yeah, an AI companion isn't just one singular app, too, just for everyone to be aware of. There's
Okay.
several different apps that you can use. There's several different therapy apps that you can use that are all AI.
Therapy apps as AI.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
with the AI being playing the role as a therapist.
Okay, but this
Yeah.
is a algorithm designed bot,
Yeah.
chatbot, essentially. How do you tackle that? As somebody in this field.
Yeah, it's difficult, and there are advantages to having AI, and that allows people to have accessibility to these tools and these resources, which is great. And there's a lot of cons, like what Kristen was listing. There's also access, VR AI, so you can quite literally see someone and interact with someone in a park when it's not a real person; it's an AI generated
Yes.
response.
Just for the record, we're all real. This is all.
Yes.
But
Confirmed.
Yes. That is, seems so overwhelming, right? You mentioned that parents can easily get overwhelmed as well. I know my kids are a little younger, so I'm very grateful. But we still, that was almost a tool that parents had, 10 years ago or a couple years back, even 5 years ago, when YouTube was still kind of, it starts off so innocent. Oh, you're learning colors, and then just how quickly that can develop. But I really appreciate, the conversation here. And in terms of just the specifics, I wanted to reference to this website here with the Fake Friend Report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate. And this is topics that, you mentioned that are very serious and could be, really concerning to some. So just, heads up for parents. But this report that came out was called Fake Friends. And right here, it gives a quick synopsis of the findings. And so they were researchers that were posing as 13-year-olds with a variety of different types of, issues, if it was eating disorder or if it was thoughts of self-harm, and how quickly, the minutes that it took just for
Oh my gosh.
the AI bot to recommend extremely concerning behaviors, as you mentioned, Kristen, as opposed to connecting with resources. I mean, the eating disorders, within less than an hour, it explained to how to hide being drunk at school with a substance use. And when it comes to parents, adults, teachers, educators, here in the room, and as we're, you mentioned, Abby, the taking steps towards kind of, fixing the tide a little bit with just the cell phone bans, but this is ingrained in these kids' lives. And so in terms of starting that connection, you both were talking about how important that is, the repair of the connection and keeping that conversation going. So what can parents maybe do if they're just like, this seems like a mountain to tackle? Where do I even start? I know my kid's using AI, or I know my kid, has a cell phone. I'm still the parent. Where do I go from there? I know you mentioned curiosity, but do you have any, I guess, prompts maybe that parents can use?
Yeah, I think, again, starting with, show me what you're using. I'm curious. I don't know much about this. Show me. I find often if you connect with an adolescent, you're like, oh, show me your Facebook, show me your Instagram. They oftentimes are excited to show that side of themselves, right?
Okay. I
think that if there's a hesitancy or a reluctance, that we can put kind of like our detective hats on and wonder where that might be coming from. I also think that, parents, oftentimes it takes, one to really kind of humble themselves that they may not be the only source of support for their child.
Yeah.
And making sure your child has another safe, trusted adult relationship, if not multiple. And so kind of tying in back to our earlier conversation about school, I think the one thing that I would also say is really critical is have a relationship with your child's school.
Yeah.
And so connecting back to AI, right? If I might not be the kiddo that my parent, if I'm not the parent my kiddo wants to open up to, who is the adult, the safe, trusted adult? Maybe it is the PE teacher. Maybe it is the volleyball coach or the counselor at school even. And so if we know who those safe, trusted adults are, and we also provide space for those relationships to develop. Okay. So back to, again, having your kid involved in a variety of things is not good or bad, right? It's kind of a both and, because being involved includes that now you do have an opportunity to forge relationships with other people that you may open up to.
And the parents too. It's tough making friends as a parent.
It is. And so I know it really might seem simple, but I think it's a lot of thinking about connection and providing those opportunities to forge those safe, trusted, and healthy relationships. And then, not keeping our kids safe is to protect them and not to punish them.
Yes.
And really walking that line, because I think what can end up happening is that we come from a place of anxiety, and we really pull everything in, and we want to restrict out of an anxious place of, I don't know what else to do, so just we're going to put these really firm limits and take it away. And, I think that we've seen this, generation after generation, just the nature of adolescence is that they wanna explore, they wanna be independent, they wanna have autonomy, and they're gonna push against that. And so that's where that respect and decision making together comes in. Let's look at this together and make some compromises. So it has to be, it can't be one-sided. We want to involve our teenagers in these decisions.
And respect them as an individual. I appreciate that you said that so much. I feel like it's really easy, in society. And I've seen even, as a younger parent when my kids were much littler, and you just look at this tiny human being, and then as they grow a little, you're like, oh wait, you have your own independent. I mean, it just is so inspiring and just awesome to witness, but does take some, as you mentioned, humbling to say like, okay, I feel this way, but you're processing this differently, and I appreciate that as much, very, very much. And I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I wanted to touch on just a couple just general mental health, tips and kind of quick bites that parents and kids might be able to use. So when it comes to you mentioned, Kristen, just the picking out the clothes early in the morning, but just also remembering the day to day. What are some ways that kids can, parents can check in with their kids, and vice versa?
That's a great question, and I think something that it depends on the child, depends on the family. I think a great way is over meals. I think at night, if there is an opportunity, it might not be perfect. It might not be 7 or 5 or even 4 nights a week, but if there's an opportunity to share those meals and casually check in, you know, building it into other activities. I think one thing we do at the clinic when we check in amongst our team is we inquire, okay, how's this week going? Tell us about your rose and tell us about your thorn. So
I love
that's a
that.
fun way, you know, the rose obviously being something positive that we're
Yes.
really jazzed about, and the thorn being maybe something a little prickly that we wish wasn't as sharp, right? We want to dull that edge a little bit. And
Yes.
so there's a lot of different ways to do that with kids and teens. And I think, again, as a parent, also being vulnerable and modeling that, and
Okay.
maybe starting the conversation by saying, you know, geez, I had a really hard day today and I'm just feeling so tired, but I'm going to take a walk because I know that once I get some fresh air, I'm going to feel better. And then maybe inviting, right? It's that
Okay.
invitation. Do you want to
Yes.
join me?
Okay.
And-
That's great.
and
Just
having that connection.
platform just right out there, rolling the red carpet right out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what about for you, Abby? Anything you wanted to chime in on?
Yeah, I definitely love the rose and thorn. That has been a
Yes.
great, and you can even go further with that. And you can say your seed, something that you want to grow. You can say who's your helping hand, someone who has been that supportive person for you. And I did want to say, in addition to having supportive adults at school, there is now like a lot of other resources available too.
great.
A lot of schools have like built-in satellite therapy programs that are available to the students, which is a really great resource. You could have a therapist in school just to have that additional adult, trusted adult. Yeah.
And just bridging those gaps when if it's transportation or all those barriers that often come with accessing resources. Well, thank you both so very much. I know we're rounding out the last couple minutes here of the conversation. That wanted to touch on as well for the Child Care Council, just the resources that you all have and you know, places where people can find more.
Absolutely. So Child Care Council has been around for over 50 years now, but most recently we launched a clinic back in August, and there we serve children ages 3 to 18, and we provide assessment and therapy as well as medication management. So individual therapy, family therapy, group therapy for children and their families.
Excellent. And we can find both of you there.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate the conversation, ladies, and thank you for taking the time, and thank you for watching this installment of Parenting Plus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.